you'll need to chill. This has been an insane week for Path of Exile 2. We saw an incredible amount of backlash coming out of the Dawn of the Hunt update. YouTubers are saying the game is doomed. And then we had the Aziz interview, and suddenly the game is going to be all right. We all need to take a moment and take a collective deep breath and calm it. You've got Jonathan over here looking like he's about to enter life's self-checkout lane. So why am I here? What am I doing to earn my measly 5 cents? Well, I'm here to say you're all lucky as hell they haven't flipped you the bird and just walked off into the sunset. We all remember this is a game in early access, right? It's in development, yeah? It's wild to me how reactive the game community is. And I'm not surprised by it, just disappointed. And I know this is a smaller section of it. Before you start jumping into the comments calling me a grinding gear game shill, I will acknowledge they didn't nail Dawn of the Hunt. They said in the Ziz interview that you really should watch if you haven't, I'll link it in the description. They said in that interview that they made mistakes. The significant nerf to minions was too heavy-handed because they were shooting for the top end and accidentally hit the lower end. Monster life was a bit too high after the changes, and these were points many took issue with. There were also many others. Grinding Gear Games took responsibility for these things. But for the love of God, did you have to bend them over the barrel to really have that conversation? I saw some unhinged comments on Twitter, and I'm guessing they did too. I know I'm likely talking to a very small section of the community here who went too far with it, but for the rest of you as well, I think we all need to take a step back and really consider what's happening here. Now, if you're someone who hasn't been berating them, if you've provided some reasonable feedback, I'm not necessarily talking to you, but I think it relates. I will say though, the disconnect issues I'm hearing about with European servers needs addressing. Quite sad how frequent that is. If anyone should be complaining, it's our European friends. So the monsters are a bit tanky for you, at least you're able to play consistently. And to that, Path of Exile is a live service game, right? It's an RPG with systems that are more complex with anything on the market now and in the future, bar for maybe Path of Exile 1. But I want you to think about another live service developer that gives you this much content, this much communication, takes part in deep discussions in interviews with its player base to talk about problems with the game. And I want you to look me in the eye right now while you write that comment and tell me one other developer that gives a shit about you as much as Grinding Gear Games. You think you're going to get this type of player-focused support from these boys sitting around the fire talking about minor changes to boring systems? You just won't. Yet these legends jump in and out of interviews for your benefit, and they actually join these interviews to make the game better for you. The reason I love Grinding Gear Games, the reason I will make videos like this that go into bat for them, is because they're a dying breed in gaming. They were gamers when they started the company. They've been gamers throughout its development. And they're gamers today and clearly play their own game. And despite their workload, they take time out of their day to reach out to the community and find out what isn't working. And it isn't just some bullshit PR stunt. They clearly care about the player experience. The reason I watch these interviews is because I'm fascinated. Watching someone raise a problem like Ziz, he raised the issue that when minions die slowly one after another, it results in very long respawn timers. Honestly, not a problem I have had, but if others do, I get it. And literally within a few days, we have a fix for this pushed to the live version. I challenge you again, name a developer in the comments who's going to take on player feedback and bring it into the game that consistently and that quickly. And more than that, a developer that is willing to sit in a live call with players and openly talk about why a system will or won't work. I appreciate that when an issue is raised to Grinding Gear Games, like monsters pushing players out of the way, they have the balls to say, no, you won't like it if we switch off collision. We trialed it, it doesn't work. More than that though, they don't just ignore the concern. They then continue the conversation to try and understand the problem and understand the fix. When they find the fix, they make it happen. You just don't get that from the majority of game developers. Grinding Gear Games aren't afraid to be front and center, but if the community keep tearing into them, they will begin to shy away from these interviews. It's got to be clear to most of the community, and I'm sure it is at this point, that they are clearly trying to make a game you will enjoy. They're doing this in early access so that you can help them shape the future of the game. Are they going to get it right every time? No, of course not. But the point is, you want them to do this. I know you're thinking that you didn't want these nerfs, but the nerfs, the fact they're trying new things is what you want. I promise you that. It sucks they went overboard. It sucks that we've had to have the conversation. But despite the lashing they got, they're still working for your benefit. To give you some context on what I'm talking about here, the reason I believe Diablo is a shell of what it used to be is that they watered down systems and limited build options. It's that way because it's easy. It's a simple process for them. Make base systems, make it look decent. Don't take risks. Put the Diablo name on it, make profit. That's literally the business model. It's much easier to make an ARPG with 10 skills as opposed to making one with hundreds. And there is one surefire way for grinding gear games to make Path of Exile 2 better. They can do it by experimenting with changes, tweaking options, testing new methods of enemy and player interactions. If you don't want change, go play Path of Exile 1, where that loop is heavily established. Path of Exile 2 is in development. Shit will change. You won't always like it. Finding a balance between making the player engagement with a system in a fun way and making that system feel tedious is such a thin line that I imagine a decent chunk of people don't really appreciate it. I'll give you an example. It's fun when you get to play basketball with friends, right? It sucks when you have to play in 10-minute intervals because you have to return home to swap out gear, or you're interrupted to take a call, or an eldritch being just randomly appears in the middle of the court. The fun is there in the game. It's finding a way around those issues and systems that they're doing now. But they can't do that simply by making everything overpowered and letting you fly through the campaign with no problem. Finding that middle ground is going to take time, and with so much content, if you don't feel challenged as a player, you'll leave. But how can they find that line without experimentation? They can only really get good feedback from releasing to the public. They need that perspective and be glad for it, and be glad that they are trying to get it. How many games have we seen flop in recent years because they just blindly pushed ahead without player input? Developers who thought they knew best. We don't want the same for Path of Exile 2. If you want PoE 2 to be good, play it. Give them constructive feedback like most of you do now in YouTube and Twitter comments. Tell them when gear drops seem low. I agreed with Aziz in that interview. I feel like I don't find enough currency. I feel like I'm often wearing the same rare drop from Act 1 through half the campaign because that has a stat on it I just can't lose. Do I find it frustrating? Sometimes I do. But do I understand they're actively working on it? Yes. Do I understand the importance of trying and testing systems? I do, yeah. If I was finding hundreds of rares per act, never had to worry about my build, and breezed through the campaign, I'd have quit after release. Because where's the challenge? If I'm not struggling to overcome an obstacle, I'm not doing anything. If the game were too easy, I'd just be done. I appreciate that they've started on the rough end. Players do not like to see their shit nerfed. It's universal. The best way to address that is to start on the low end and build up to avoid what we saw in patch 1. Players building into something strong and then waking up one day to see their character bricked. We want to avoid that. And this is where I think most of the player base understand it, right? I'm not talking to the vast majority of you. I'm probably talking to a smaller subsection, but I hope the rest of you will help me in this. We need to come to a clear understanding that they aren't doing this to make you have a worse time. I think the vast majority of you understand that. And if you don't play Dawn of the Hunt for more than an hour, leave a comment saying why. Just be normal about it, because they're going to pick up on those comments much more than the aggressive, offensive ones. They track player attention. They track how well people are doing and where they drop off. And they clearly pay attention to these numbers to improve the experience for you. Simply by playing and leaving early, you've sent that message, which is fantastic. If you need to send more of one, leave those comments. Leave a review on the Steam page. I don't hate that. But I think we see a large portion of the community still stuck in their PoE 1 brain, and they keep comparing the two products. Remember, one has had decades of work. The other is in active development. I mean, they just gave you a brand new class, brand new skills, a Spectre system that literally lets you make any monster in the game into a friendly minion. Blizzard charged you $100 if you're Australian for a single new class that had less skills than our Huntress was on release. Grinding Gear Games released the update free, and will continue to do so for the other 5 classes to come, and the rest of the content this game is going to have. They easily could have charged you individually for each class, made them strong so you had a good time, and kept on raking in the cash. They've chosen the player-friendly avenue, so we can at the very least treat them in a decent manner. Yes, they made mistakes. There is no perfect game out there. Server issues are egregious for those of you experiencing them, but the game itself, it's coming together beautifully, despite the issues. The changes to the endgame, to crafting, to the game itself have been positive. There's a lot to like, and it looks to me like they have heard your feedback. Let's celebrate that as much as we piled on them when things were looking rough. I've personally had a great experience this patch. Bit of a slog for my minions. I don't want it to continue long term, but they are watching, they are listening. I'd like to see it smoothed out, but understand this is the foundation. We're looking at half a complete house, and some of you are complaining they haven't put the finishing touches on yet. Thanks for checking out this video, guys. I really appreciate it. It was a bit of a ranty one for me, I'll be honest, but I think it really needs to be said that this game is in development. It's gonna take time. Feedback is good, but this week's been a fucking rough one for the boys at Grinding Gear Games. As always, if you've enjoyed the video, throw a like on it, sub if you want to see more, and let me know in the comments what kind of games are you playing at the moment. If you wanted to chat, I'll catch you down in the comments. Otherwise, you can catch me streaming here on YouTube and Twitch every Tuesday and Thursday, 4 PM Australian Western Standard Time. Other than that, have a great one, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.